Success isn't given, it's earned. And earning it means becoming the person who deserves it. The bottom line is where we cut through the chaos to simplify success, uncovering the strategies, mindset, and resilience it takes to win. Real stories, expert insights, and practical tools. Because the only way to the top is by putting in the work. This is The Bottom Line.
Welcome to The Bottom Line. This show is all about cutting through the chaos to simplify success. And I'm your host, Ryan Herpin. Today, I'm joined by someone who is highly decorated, mountain of accolades, and someone I have seriously looked forward to speaking with, Krishna Mohan, a serial entrepreneur, a speaker, and #1 best-selling author, been featured on Fox TV and multiple media outlets with over 27 years of leadership experience across industries like manufacturing, IT, energy, telecom. Krishna has worked with Fortune 500 companies and startups alike, helping them scale, expand internationally, and generate millions in revenue. Krishna, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to talk with you.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited as well.
Absolutely. So I like to really dive into things. As the name of the show would suggest, the bottom line, I like to get there in a very efficient, effective way. And the first thing we're really going to be talking about today is mergers and acquisitions. And really, if we have to look at this, for many leaders, the thought of merger, selling or buying feels risky and extremely overwhelming. And I really want your help to break this down. So if I look at the problem, right, you know, facing a lot of the audience that this topic really applies to, that maybe they're considering a merger or a buyout, it often feels way too risky and extremely confusing. And I've had my fair share of experiences with businesses that have the objective to sell or to go through a merger, right? And Krishna, I'm glad to have you on the show to help us break this down, to help the audience truly understand what this means and why it's not so scary. So
Sure.
I'm gonna dive right in. And
Okay.
and I want to start with something really, really important. So
Mhm.
how do you help someone break down this big moment into easy steps that make sense, that are not, it makes it not so scary for them?
Right. So first things first is what is the exit strategy, right? Like, okay, now that we have grown this company, we are at this certain level of revenues, top line and bottom line. And if I were to look at what is it that it's looking like in the next 3 years to 5 years, and if my exit strategy is to you know sell the company at a certain valuation, now what are my options, right? My options are, a is I could look for a strategic buyer. Each set of buyers look at valuation differently. So for that, what are the things that I have in place, in terms of my financials, in terms of my operations, my team, and everything. So understanding the exit goal is very important. So that once that's narrowed down, now it's a matter of, okay, would that be a merger, or would that be an actual exit, or would that be even an acquisition? So a common, I mean, these are all the scenarios. That's how we need to look at it, not so much in a reactive way, but then more proactive way. So I'm a $8 million company. My goal is to, probably get to $15 million, but organically, there is only so much I can grow. I can double digit grow, or do something, but I cannot exponentially grow. So that is where the options would open. So for someone who is really conservative, who think the business is okay, my business is valued at 8 million. I'll be happy to walk away if I have a buyer like tomorrow. Okay, so for that, it requires a different set of buyer. So these are the ways that I kind of keep it simple without complicating, understanding really the motivation, understanding really their goals, understand what they really are trying to accomplish is the number one task. Then we can break it down to, the strategy, and then go from there.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's impossible to have some kind of strategy, plan, or understanding of what the objective really is if the goal isn't clear and concise. To
Exactly.
understand what is the real motive. why are they doing this? Why are they entertaining this? Do they want
Exactly.
an exit to go live their best life elsewhere doing something else? Or are they wanting maybe a merger to where they can grow exponentially? What
Absolutely.
are those options, right? And I've been through a few myself. The first one I was ever a part of as director of operations for a very large manufacturing company, we were able to vertically integrate with a global giant. The
Hmm.
buyout ended up being a 33 times EBITDA sale. So it
Yes.
was a unicorn sale, massive
Hmm.
multiplier, and it was because of the strategy. It
Hmm.
made us the prime candidate for them to take a part of the market they did not have.
Hmm.
And we structured so that integration would be simple, right?
Right.
But the motive is what really matters. For my team at the time, the owners of the
Mm.
business, they wanted to exit.
Yes.
One of the owners, his strategy was as soon as they bought out, he wanted to make sure he wasn't locked into any more, into any of the agreements. He didn't want to be stuck around for a couple of years, even if that meant giving up some of his pay downs and things. He just wanted to throw a ninja smoke bomb and disappear. And that's okay. But
That's okay.
understanding what their goal is, couldn't
Yes.
agree with you more. That's definitely the first step. So, with that
Mm.
being said, can you tell us a story about someone who felt afraid to go through a merger or to sell their business, but then found it opened a new whole set of possibilities?
Right. So my observation over the past many, many years is many of the business owners do not know the options available. They vaguely know, that there is something called, mergers or acquisitions, but they don't know what their options are. So they typically try to, transition the business to someone in the family, or they obviously try to exit, by selling it to their partners, or maybe they're looking at the business next door, right? I'm a tech company, so I naturally try to look for other tech business owner and try to sell it. So that is something that I observed. But in that, in that case, what I try to do is to educate that the possibilities, educate how the valuation works, educate how the EBITDA, is actually going to make a difference, and the multiples, one more multiples or two more multiples can change the game significantly. And how can that be possible? And I show the possibilities. And I most recently, I'm actually working with a tech company. They were like, thinking small, I'll put it that way. They were not thinking big. But then what I realized is show them the synergies. If you can show the synergistic value of what you have built to a larger player, the value of what that can do to that larger player and their customers can mean multi-million dollars. So in this example, without giving names, I can, I can clearly show an extra $25 million in terms of valuation from what was originally expected. And now they're going through this process. The due diligence process is happening as we speak right now. So this is one, and in the past, I helped somebody who is in the franchisee business, and they were like pretty obviously, trying to exit, and they don't know, they were trying to retire. They really don't know how the valuation works. All they see is this is my revenues, this is what we make, and we think this is the value. That's it. There's no basis, and there is no nothing. So then I kind of go through the whole process, the lifetime value of customers, what's the average customers, value, and then the retention rates, and the, the market dominance. Once we put all these things in place, all of a sudden they realize there's so much value to what they have done, and including the business credit that they have is a significant asset that's sitting on their balance sheet, which they did not even value. They don't even know that has a value by itself. So yeah, so things like that. I think a lot of money is left on the table. Um, it's understandable because they're not really finding someone who has complete knowledge about this whole process. Typically, they try to find the business broker that they know, or someone. They're more or less just creating a sim and listing the business and not really adding a lot of value. because they really do not have the experience in operations, and their job is not to really help them increase the valuation, or really create an exit plan. So that's where I think these things are coming up. But I think from our experience, since we are pretty hands-on, we are not only advisors, but we are also in the trenches making deals ourselves. Through this journey, we learn the hard lessons, and that's what we are trying to bring to the table. And I think that's what the clients see as value. In fact, with our approach, we were able to get some equity positions in some transactions just because of the value we bring in, and they want to be on their side and then help them along the way.
It's funny. There's a few nuggets of gold that you really just dropped that were so important. And one of the things I really have to highlight and I have to echo back is it's all about perspective and the value you can communicate to the potential buyer or the
Yes.
potential entity that wants to merge, right?
Yes.
I've seen it go so many ways, and I've had the privilege of working with an M&A advisor and broker, Mr. Cliff Gardner. Man, he is a wizard in the field, and he took the liberty and the time to educate me quite a bit in the makings of what really drives a good sale. And a
Hmm.
lot of it is perspective as well as the limited and minimizing of risk and integrity of the books.
Yes.
Massive, massive. But I am loving this conversation so far. There's so much meat here, so much value in what you're saying, and the experience is obviously pouring right out of you. So we will be right back on the bottom line. Coming up, we will explore how to find funding with confidence and why the money you need might be closer than you think. Don't go anywhere.